Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in, boys and girls. Friday, January 9th here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew Playoff-Bound Betz.
Let's go, baby! Playoffs, Kyle. Playoffs. Don't talk about playoffs. Come on. What time do the Falcons play?
Well, you could look at it in a couple different ways, but the offseason is actually looking pretty good for us right now.
Oh, yeah. No coach, no GM, no quarterback. They won't have Kyle Pitts back. I mean, this team is just reeling. But, dude, I cannot wait for this weekend's slate of games. We're at the point, you know, on a main slate, there's so many games. Sometimes we got the 13-gamer, the 10-gamer. Yeah, there's just so many options. When we have just a handful of games to pick from, and we're not going to talk Monday Night Football because the Cash Man, Chris Cash, is going to write up Monday Night Showdown for that. And the sites do have a lot of offerings. If you want to play the 6-gamer, they have that. But a lot of the action is going to be Saturday only or Sunday only, which is how we'll frame the slate. When you only have like 5 games that you're seriously digging into, I've talked myself in and out of probably every player on the slate 3 different times, and I've talked myself into and out of different sides of the spread different times. So I can't wait to talk through like what angles you've uncovered on this slate, because it's really, really fun when you can dive into, you know, the nitty gritty of each matchup. So it should be an awesome weekend of football. Hopefully that leads to some DFS success.
That's exactly how I feel. I wrote up the pace of play on our website, part of the DFS Pass, which is free, by the way. Free for...
Oh, yeah. We should mention that.
DFSpass.com. If you have been listening to this podcast, if it's giving you some value, then why don't we give you some more value and offer it to you for free through the NFL playoffs? So all of our picks, the DFS optimizer, our articles, all of our tools, everything is free on the website because we want you to play with us. And we think playoff DFS is its own thing. It's a different sort of game than what we've been playing in the regular season, and we want everybody to get in on the fun. So DFSpass.com if you want that for free. But I was writing up these teams and trying to cover all these different angles of which teams are in a spot where like, man, this, you know, the Jaguars are on a roll over the last 8 weeks. And then you look at some of these other things where it's like, okay, man, the Chargers kind of limped to the end, hoping that please don't hurt Justin Herbert. Like that was kind of their game plan. They slowed down the pass rate. And yet, I could see a scenario where the Chargers win. I could see a scenario for almost, like I could make the case for either side. Now, the Panthers might be a little bit tougher. We'll talk about that game. But really, these are some really good matchups for Wildcard Weekend.
One of these things is not like the other this weekend, and that thing is the Panthers. But I will say, they already pulled off the upset once against this team. Maybe they can, you know, have lightning strike twice here. But I think we talked about this a lot kind of leading up to the playoffs, right? Like this is probably the flattest NFL postseason has been for quite a long time, where there are so many teams that you can envision winning this thing. And I think the perfect example of that is Chicago is the 2 seed. And it's basically a pick 'em against the 7 seed, right? And it's a divisional game and all that sort of stuff with the Packers. But I think that does speak to kind of how thin the margins will be this weekend. I could see a lot of these games being one score, a lot of high variance type stuff at the end. So if you're doing playoff best ball like throughout the rest of the weekend and stuff like that, really fun to kind of get off the board. I think this is a really good slate. Not as much for cash. I'm probably going to play only tournaments. And I have some thoughts there, but it really is going to be, I think, a super, super fun January with all these teams. And there's no like perfect team. Like every team's got issues, which is really fun to think through, like how it could go well. And then obviously how it could not go well. So yeah, we'll talk about it today. Should be an awesome show.
Yeah. 4 of the 6 road teams this weekend are favored. So it does bring into, you know, the conversation about parity in the NFL, about just getting in, and teams that can make a run, like the Bills are a 6 seed. They can make a run, right? Like it's just, there's so many different ways to look at the teams that have these home playoff games, and yet we know that there's other teams that can pull off an upset. So we'll talk about all the games, talk about how to stack them up, give you our slate breakers, give you a couple of props. Still us doing our same thing. So should be good. I did want to preview it though, real quick.
State of the main slate.
All right, so just going over how you can play this. So Betz mentioned it. You can play the 2-game Saturday slate, which in our Best Plays article, you can look at it that way if you want to and say, hey, I'm playing, first the Rams and Panthers games. The Rams are 10.5-point favorites, and the Packers and Bears games, Packers are 1.5-point road favorites, and just say, I am looking at it in the context of these 2 games. You can play the 3-game Sunday slate, which is Bills, Jaguars, Eagles, 49ers, Patriots, Chargers. And then you can also play the Monday Night Showdown. There is a format where you do the full 6-game slate if you want to do the entire thing. The way we will be breaking it down on the show is the first 2 games in the Saturday slate. Here's how we're going to play this. The 3-game Sunday slate. Here's how we'd play that slate. And then we'll give you some contextual stuff if you're playing the entire slate, what you're doing. So any quick thoughts about how to approach a 2-game slate or a 3-game slate if people haven't really realized that since maybe Christmas or Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I was going to say we've had a couple of opportunities to get warmed up for the playoffs this year. Most notable is the Thanksgiving slate, which of course is a 3-gamer. Because the NFL wants us to never spend time with our families, we got the 3-gamer on Christmas, so we already have that data set as well. If you've been playing some of these recent weekend slates where they've had the December Saturday games, there's been a couple 2-gamers for that as well. So if you've been doing those, you probably already kind of understand how this works. I treat these smaller slates more showdown-esque. And when you think about like what you have to get right to win a big, large field GPP on a 12-game slate on a Sunday, you kind of need to hit the nuts everywhere. On these sort of slates, you can actually perform quite well with just betting on 1 or 2 things to happen. For example, one team rolls, 3 pass catchers with the same quarterback rolls, you're onslaughting it, stuff like that. Leaving salary on the table is an option, which I would never really do in a full classic slate, but on this slate, it's not crazy if you want to leave $1,000, right? So there's just ways that you can definitely approach this, embracing some of those showdown concepts. For context on that, last weekend I had a really nice Saturday with a Bryce Young team, which was a triple stack. And like on a normal slate, I would never in my wildest dreams think to triple Bryce Young. But because it was a 2-game slate, you're just saying this is the quarterback that's optimal and he's bringing a couple guys with him, stuff like that. So definitely approach it differently than you would otherwise. And we talk about this too on the holiday slates with Thanksgiving and Christmas. Weird stuff happens at defense. You can definitely loosen your rules if you're using an optimizer to allow more players against the DST that you're going to play.
So you're telling me that last weekend, it was a Tommy Tremble team with Bryce Young that really got you going?
It was Tommy T, Tedero, of course, and Jalen Coker with Bryce Young.
We will talk about those guys. What's funny is I was looking at who's leading this team in first read target share against zone over the last 6 weeks. It's not Jalen Coker. It's not Tedero McMillan.
Don't even say the words.
It's not Tommy Tremble.
I know who it is.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put that out there for the people. You can say it if you want.
Yeah, it's wild. Anyway, Xavier Legette. Another thing I just want to mention is we will talk about certain players as values relative to a 2-game slate, values relative to the entire slate. It does change, and you can use our optimizer to kind of go back and forth. But a lot of the rules that we usually talk about, like, hey, do you really want to stack, this player together? Do you want to have a quarterback and running back together? That can work. I just kind of throw them out in the small slates. We'll talk about Josh Jacobs. He is really, really underpriced. And part of that is he's been hurt. And so we kind of have this ongoing feeling about how he's been. He says he's fully healthy, whatever that means. But on this slate for Saturday, he's a crazy value. On the course of a 6-game slate, he's a really good value. But in a 2-game slate, he's like maybe the best value in the game. So just think about that. Context matters. Treat it like showdown, like Betz mentioned. And the last thing I want to also throw out is late swap. If you're playing the Sunday 3-game, oh baby, the Patriots and Chargers have so many different options, especially at wide receiver that you can late swap with. So kind of identify those earlier on and make sure if you're playing a Sunday only slate, you're saying, okay, here's the wide receivers that our optimizer is saying is more popular. I could get onto a Ladd McConkey or Keenan Allen. I mean, imagine the late night hammer you need on Sunday is Keenan Allen.
I'm sad we didn't get to talk about this because we didn't have a Tuesday show this week, but I just want to applaud Trey Lance for A, keeping the game respectable in Denver, and B, getting Keenan Allen his milestones to get him paid. So shout out to Trey, shout out to Keenan. It took way too many targets for it to happen, but they got it done. The boys got it done. So shout out to Trey and Keenan. But I like that point too. And same thing for 6-gamer, right? Like, keep in mind the Monday game. If you need late swap stuff, if you need to get weird to try to make up ground, just kind of remember that is in your back pocket. And especially I think on the same day slate. So on like the Saturday 2-gamer or on the Sunday one, most people do not late swap. It's just not something people do usually. So again, if you feel like you need to get off the board, pivot to a low roster player, stuff like that, don't forget that obviously is an option this weekend.
I will be traveling this weekend, so Chris Cash will be taking over some of the best plays. But yeah, on Sunday, I'm going to be driving back. Nothing better than late swapping while you're driving.
Where are you going?
Kentucky for a wedding.
Beautiful this time of year. Love Kentucky. Never been.
Never been, huh?
No.
I'm going to, I need to say it the best way possible in the South, Louisville. It's not Louisville, it's Louisville.
What are you doing there?
Emma's brother's getting married.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
I haven't been to a wedding in so long, dude. I love weddings. So fun. What's
crazy is that I will go to a wedding this weekend, and I will go to another wedding the next weekend.
Big wedding guy. That's an issue. I mean, the divisional round, Kyle, is the football weekend of the year.
Trust me.
You might have to like fake sick or something.
I feel I'm actually officiating that one for my cousin.
Okay, well, you're stuck.
We're screwed. You're totally screwed. All right, let's talk about these games.
Stack Attack.
Starting off with these Saturday games, the Los Angeles Rams travel to Charlotte to play the Panthers. The Rams are 10.5-point road favorites. The over-under's at 46.5. I was talking to my next door neighbor, big Panthers fan. We watched the Panthers-Buccaneers game last week in his backyard. He's got this great bonfire set up. We're watching the game. They lose. And then all of us are like, you got to count on the Falcons. And he wants to go to this game. He's going to go. And the thing that he's rooting for is that it just downpours, that it just rains so much that this game hits the under.
We saw it the first time, right? A couple weeks ago. It was like a month ago, roughly. Stafford threw a bunch of picks. They had a pick 6. Bryce Young ran super hot on 3rd and 4th down to keep plays alive and even threw a couple of touchdowns on 4th down. So they already hit the 90th percentile outcome from a Panthers perspective. Do you think it happens twice? I'm surprised, but at the same time, this is a huge spread for a playoff matchup. Now, context is important. The Panthers are the only team in the entire field that have a negative point differential. Like, the Panthers are not a good team. But can they slow the game down? Can they run it a little bit with Rico and Chuba? Can they limit possessions back and forth and just try to keep variance in their side and hope something similar to what happens last time happens again? Maybe. And if the weather comes into play, which looks like there's a good chance of rain here, we'll see on winds and how bad that gets. Make sure you're tracking, throughout the day and then tomorrow and Saturday. That's kind of, in my opinion, the really only hope. You don't want to get into a shootout with Stafford, and they're going to get Devontae back, and Puka, obviously. They just don't have the horses to do it. So the way that Carolina, I think, plays this game is tries to go super conservative, slow it down, limit possessions. What does that do to the game environment from a DFS perspective? To me, that's the key question, because a lot of people are going to say, okay, this is the first game. How do I not play Puka? I can't say that's wrong, right? I mean, the guy's incredible. But if they do slow it down and they do limit possessions and maybe the Rams don't hit this 20 implied total, the question for me from a DFS perspective is then do you need Rams? Because obviously the market is telling us they're probably going to have success here. To me, the question is just how much success.
Carolina games this year have averaged just 41 combined points per game. That's the 5th lowest in the NFL. And they're 29th in seconds per play. So there is a lot at play here where you go, we know what Carolina wants to do. They want to run the ball. They want to put it in Rico's belly. And they kind of want to make sure this overall game environment just goes down. I think when I looked at this game from just a Saturday-only perspective, the best plays are going to get played. Puka's going to get clicked because even at his price tag, it's like, well, you're the best wide receiver in football. You can argue JSN, but yards per out run, everything else is like Puka's incredible. And it's just not hard on a 2-game slate to get there. Like, that's the context that Betz and I want to keep sharing is I don't really care what his price is because you can get there when there's not that many other expensive players on a 2-game slate. So I have a hard time getting away from Puka on the 2-game slate. Like if you're going on the 6-game slate, makes a lot more sense if you want to get different. But on 2-game, he's going to be 70, 80%.
Right. And context there is super important too. Like you said, if this was a normal 10-game Sunday main slate, if he gives you like 15 or 16 points, that's not good enough. On a 2-game slate, and we're going to talk about the night game between Chicago and Green Bay, some snow potential, more wind potential. Like it could just be a lower scoring slate, period. That like 15 or 16 from Puka for his standards is not very good, but on a 2-game slate might be enough, right? So just the raw points matter so much on 2-game slates that, look, I have nothing negative to say about Puka. It's just more of game theory conversation, and maybe Devontae siphons off a couple touchdowns in the red zone or inside the 10-yard line or something like he's done for most of the year. But yeah, look, if you're playing cash on these 2 or 6-game slates, I think you want Puka, no question. I still think even at that roster percentage, I'm probably going to play a decent clip of him and just understand like the rest of my lineup will probably need to get a little bit more different elsewhere.
I mean, it's pretty simple because there's 4 quarterbacks you're dealing with on the Saturday slate: Stafford, Bryce Young, Jordan Love, and Caleb, which we'll talk about those last 2. But a Stafford double stack of Stafford, Puka, and then if you want to throw in Colby Parkinson, I think that he's a solid play based on his red zone work. We've talked about him all year. He's been targeted on 49% of his routes inside the 20. It's the highest rate of any player in the NFL. So for his price tag, he's there. And then the other tight ends on the Saturday slate are Tommy Tremble, your boy Luke Musgrave, who is basically barely even alive, and then Colston Loveland, who's going to be a much more popular click. So if you wanted to play Stafford, Puka, Colby Parkinson, that's a solid start.
Don't forget about Tyler Higbee. He's been out for most of this run, and Colby's really benefited from Devontae Adams missing time. I'm more inclined here to lean towards Tyler Higbee for $500 cheaper on DK and $300 cheaper on FanDuel. Came back from the injury last week, first game off IR, 15% target share, ran 26 of 42 routes, so not incredible, but pretty decent. And so for me, I think I prefer Tyler Higbee over Colby, but if you're running on 150 set or something, like both should definitely make your player pool, especially as part of Stafford stacks.
How do you feel about Devontae, who's obviously a lot cheaper than Puka? Are you playing lineups where you're having Puka and Devontae in them?
You definitely can, especially if you just say, look, this Bears-Chicago game is, kind of it's their third matchup in basically like 6 weeks. Like these teams know each other, it could be a lower scoring divisional game. And market is saying expect offensive success from the Rams. If you need Rams and there's a chance Stafford throws for 3+ touchdowns, I feel pretty good one of those is going to Devontae Adams. He is coming off the hamstring injury. I do have question marks about like, do they use him down the field? Is he kind of more just like red zone only as far as his usage? And in those situations, it's kind of touchdown or bust type of situation. So I am willing to play the Stafford double. I am willing to play Devontae, but I think my stance is to probably come in underweight the field and just hope I don't get buried by touchdowns, which that's what he's done all year. So I probably will get buried, but my inclination is to come in underweight.
I think my way that I'm playing the Rams is, as much as I love Stafford and how incredible he's been this year, I think I like the quarterbacks in the other game a little bit better on the Saturday slate. So I think I just want the usage king. So I want Kyren, I want Puka, and then I'm kind of trying to figure out on the other side, like who's the wide receiver on the Panther side that I bring it back. So that's my early stance on the Saturday slate is like, I like the quarterbacks elsewhere, and I wanted just the condensed usage between Kyren and Puka.
Yeah, it makes sense. On the Carolina guys, again, we talk about this in like showdown concepts. Do not feel like you have to have a Panther. They have the lowest implied team total on the entire slate. This is a huge spread. I kind of already mentioned like a lot of the advanced metrics on this Carolina team are not good. They had to have, another team win for them to get in. There's a lot of chance that this goes south. I think the key on this situation for the Rams side, they were so good defensively in the first basically 3-ish months of the year. Like weeks 1 to 12, they were awesome. They lost Quentin Lake in the secondary. They dropped to 17th in EPA per play and 19th in points per play without him. He is due back this week. So even though the Rams recently have really, really struggled on the defensive side of the ball, I think we could see that rebound and come back in a major way. They've already faced Bryce Young once. Yes, Bryce Young kind of got a little lucky or like opportunistic in that game. I'd be surprised if it happens another time. I will say, I prefer Jalen Coker price adjusted to Tedero McMillan. The only reason is when you spend up for $6K on T-Mac or $7,500 on FanDuel, and you're also playing Puka, and you want to play Josh Jacobs, like eventually you're starting to get into some really, really thin plays elsewhere. So I think just from a median perspective, I prefer the savings with Coker. And I will say on the get, I know you mentioned the stat about him and the zone coverage and all that sort of stuff. His playing time came down in a major, major way last week, splitting work basically with like Jimmy Horn Jr. and Bryson Tremaine. Coker led the wide receiver room in route share last week. So I do like Coker as a cheap play here. I fear he could get overplayed because of that, but at the same time, I understand that. So for me, it's Coker over T-Mac just from the price adjusted perspective.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I mean, Coker's ahead of Teteroa against zone coverage. The reason why I bring that up is the Rams defense, like it's quietly been not good over the last 6 weeks. They are tied with the Jets, not a great team. I don't know if you've heard, Betz. You've talked about them before. And the Titans over the last six weeks in terms of fantasy points per dropback against zone coverage. So there is room for somebody in this pass-catching core to get there. And I do agree. I think Coker's the best when you adjust for price and you adjust for everything else. Yeah, they've also been really bad against the run. Like they've been dead last in yards after contact per attempt, 30th in yards per carry over the last 6 weeks. So I think Rico is a really intriguing play if you think this game hits the under and you do get a really gross environment. You're stacking up the other game and you're saying, hey, Rico's really the piece I needed from the Panthers side, and I'm saying that the Rams go under their implied total. The game ends up being, 20-17 or something.
Yeah, it makes sense. And honestly, at his price, he's 5,500, like something in the ballpark of like 50-ish yards, total yards from scrimmage and a score could be enough if this is a pretty low scoring slate, which it seems like it might be. So I don't mind that call, especially like I said, if you're correlating your lineup that tells a story where this game is kind of a slog, the weather affects it, and you don't need the 90th percentile outcome from these players to hit your lineup, that might be enough. So I don't mind that. I will say Carolina's rushing attack has been abysmal from the last 2 months. Like since week 10, they were 29th in rush success rate. They're 29th in yards per carry. Rico hasn't cleared 60 rushing yards since week 10. So it's a thin path, but it does exist if the game comes in under. So just something to point out.
Rico got his milli last week, with his incentives. And then it felt like the rest of the game was like, like his overall, he did catch a pass, but I feel like there was parts of the game where I was like, he knew he got his milli. He knew that, it was a close game still, but anyway, good for him. Good for Rico Dowdle, 27, 28 years old. Get that extra cash. How do you see this game play out Vegas-wise?
I like the under on Carolina's team total.
Wow. Apparently you don't care about home playoff teams that earned. They won the division.
Did they?
They won it thanks to another team that had the exact same record as them. 8-9, baby. 8-9. Falcons 8-9. Third place schedule, though.
Love that. We're going to talk about that in the win totals next year.
That's called playing chess, man. That's how you do it. You still got that. Anyway, let's take a quick break and we'll talk about some other games. The next game, we're going to talk about Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. As of this recording, the Packers are 1.5 point favorites, but this line has kind of jumped back and forth. The over-under, currently I'm seeing 44.5. And if you've seen this movie before, that's because it's already played twice. In Week 14, Green Bay won 28-21. In Week 16, Chicago won 22-16 on that walk-off DJ Moore touchdown. So now we get the third offering. And I was just thinking about there's very few movies where you go, man, the third one's the best. But I did want to throw this out there. Toy Story 3, oh man, what a great, horrendously sad ending. And then they made other ones that don't make it feel as like weighty anymore.
Wait, there's more than 3 Toy Stories?
There's about to be a 5th one that's coming out.
All right, enough. That's too much. That's too much.
I was so happy with the way the third one ended. So
yeah, no, the first 3 are all great, but 4th and 5th, come on.
Your girls are gonna watch the 4th one soon, and the 5th.
You got to know when to let a good thing go.
I get it, man. No, I totally understand. Both of those matchups that we saw earlier between these teams were really entertaining in the fourth quarter. Like that's like when things heated up. That's kind of been Chicago's MO the entire year. But in those games, Caleb threw for under 190 passing yards in each. They are an interesting team, man. And also, shout out to Bears fans. If you are listening to this podcast, you are a rowdy bunch on the social media. I could, like, anytime I see somebody bring up something about the Bears fans are right there to be like, you watch yourself. This team is second in offensive plays per game. So they run a ton of plays. Their defense is number one in turnover rate, and yet their defense also gives up the third most yards per play. So it's like the weird combination of like lots of plays, lots of action, lots of chaos, lots of like huge swings and win probability from like turnovers and big plays. Like they are an interesting team to dissect.
The Bears are an interesting team to dissect because their offense can be so electric and they can do it in different ways, right? We saw in that Eagles game on that like Black Friday, it was bully ball. They couldn't stop the run. They fed Monangai, they fed Swift, and just had amazing success. There's other games like we've seen recently against the Niners where Caleb and Burden and Loveland can go crazy. So they can beat you in a number of different ways, which is really fun to talk about from a DFS perspective. The way I see this game going from their side against the Packers is we've already seen this twice, like you said. In those contests, Ben Johnson logged a negative 6.3 and negative 6% PROE rate. So they basically said, look, let's run the ball, let's do what we do, and let's hit some play action and big plays. I think the same thing is going to happen here, especially considering some weather aspects at play. Very, very cold Chicago Saturday night and potential snow and wind. Probably more incentive to run the ball. And the thing is, like, the Packers have not been able to stop the run at all in recent weeks. We obviously saw what Derrick Henry did. That's a unique case a couple weeks ago. But since they had Micah Parsons tear his ACL, they've had some other injuries on the defensive line. They've really struggled, especially over the last month, in terms of their efficiency against the run. They're 25th in EPA per rush, 31st in rush success rate over the last four, not including Week 18 when they rested some guys. So on paper, it is a great spot for Swift and Monangai, and I think they probably limit Caleb's dropbacks here overall. Doesn't mean he can't have a good game because we know that Caleb can run around the goal line. We know he'll scramble. We know he can hit some big plays. But I do think this profiles as a big Swift and Monangai game.
Well, I was looking at how the Packers defense in those two games, how they attacked the Bears, because you were right. Like they just took this run first approach, and the Packers defense in week 14, they loaded up the box. So 65% of the snaps, they had a loaded box, meaning they put at least 8 defenders in there. And then in week 16, they did the exact opposite. They went like almost half that rate at 37%, and they were destroyed. So I wonder if they do some self-scouting. They're like, hey, we kind of know where this game plan is going to go. The biggest wrinkle, I think, in this game is that Rome Odunze is supposed to come back. He was limited at practice Tuesday and Wednesday. But that adds a wrinkle to this game plan because we know he's talented. We know it hasn't really worked out this year. And we also know that recently it's been Burden and Loveland being targeted 30%, 26% of their routes for those two guys over the last 6 weeks. Like they've been the offense and Odunze hasn't been around. So how do you think that shifts the pass catchers?
Yeah, just for context, right before we started recording, they did release final updates from Chicago. Rome Odunze not on the final injury report. So he is back. He will play. There was some coach speak about his usage, suggesting maybe, they didn't say it directly, that he'd be on a pitch count, but basically just saying, like, we don't know what we're going to get as far as conditioning. He hasn't played in, a handful of weeks. I think it was 3 weeks ago he aggravated the foot in warm-up. So to me, from a DFS perspective, it's a pretty thin needle to thread to say, I might have a guy that's playing, I'm making up a number here, but, 2/3 of what he normally would from a snap count perspective. And now you also have Luther Burden ascending. You have Colson Loveland ascending. And you still have this run game that they want to rely on. So it's a pretty thin needle to thread in large field. I'm fine taking shots on Rome. I think in the smaller stuff I play, I'm pretty much going to X him out and kind of hope for the best and just trust that what we've seen recently from the usage and, how good those guys have been. The rookies have been so good that I think that's probably the route I'll take and maybe hope for the best. So we'll see. But that's my initial gut reaction.
I mean, Burden's going to get clicked a ton just because his price is great. Loveland's going to get clicked a ton because of the way that they played over the last 2 months. So I can't really argue anybody about playing these guys. So looking at how the Saturday slate kind of sets up, if you like the Bears running game, Are you just picking one of those two options to kind of add in and then saying, I'm going to have a Jordan Love stack on the other side?
So I think from a running back perspective, what you will see on this slate, like we talked about, a ton of Josh Jacobs, which I totally understand. We're going to talk about him in a second. I think you'll see a lot of Kyren, and then you'll see Swift as kind of the third guy. I do not think you will see much of Kyle Monangai at all, and I do not think you will see any lineups playing both Chicago running backs, which I'm kind of interested in doing as a way to get unique.
Who are you?
I'm just a tournament bro now. That's what I do.
That's okay. That's my point. Not that couldn't work, because I agree with that point. But I feel like the bets that I knew 3 or 4 years ago would be like, I just can't see myself doing that because I'm hand building my lineups.
No, yeah, dude, I'm getting off the board. So I am interested in that, and because of the pricing with like Rico and Monangai, I mean, Rico's only $300 more. He projects better. He's going to get clicked way more. So I think he's interesting. And like I said, I think you can play these guys both together. If you think the Bears win this game, like I said, at home, some weather concerns, the matchup is awesome. So I'm definitely interested in that angle for sure.
On the other side, I really like Jordan Love in this game. Jordan Love loves a good fadeaway, by the way. Just loves a good Dirk Nowitzki fadeaway throw. Jordan Love's tough too because you know the explosive plays are there. You've seen that all year. 19.4% explosive play rate is one of the best in the league. They were really good against man coverage all year. And when Christian Watson is right, it works. Like you see that combination work. Romeo Doubs is a solid player as well. And they're both affordable. So like I look at the Packers offense, and if you think that the Bears control the clock here, you say they want to run the ball. I think that the Packers, I think they're worthy 1.5 point road favorites. Bears fans will not like that. But I think this team is good enough to be able to win on the road here. And the way that I see that is I'm playing Love, Jacobs, and then one pass catcher if it's Watson or Dobbs. And the offense kind of condenses there. So you're getting like 3 touchdowns from those guys. And then you're picking Swift and either Burden or Loveland on the other side. So I almost want to overstack this game compared to the other one.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good way to play it. My initial gut reaction was I like the over in the game. I know that you're the sides and totals guy, so I don't want to step on any toes here, Kyle. But because these defenses really are not very good. Like the Bears look pretty good in EPA and stuff because they have a lot of turnovers, pick sixes, stuff like that. They can't rush the passer. They can't stop the run. They give up massive play. They're 30th in yards per play allowed. Like this is not a good defense. They've just been very fortunate on turnovers.
They're terrible at stopping the run.
So I think the Packers can move the ball, convert first downs, and put up points. So I'm with you in that take. So and then because of the injuries defensively for Green Bay, I think Chicago can have success offensively. My only concern is just how bad is the weather and how much does it affect scoring is the thing you'll have to track closer to the game. But I do like overstacking this one. I'm with you in that relative to the other game. Also considering price adjusted, right? You can stack up Jordan Love, who's only $5,300. You can stack up Caleb, who's only $5,600, compared to Stafford, who's obviously the most expensive. And then because of Puka and Devontae and Kyren, like it gets very thin very quickly if you're playing a ton of Rams. So not that the Rams are bad plays by any means. It's just that from a price adjusted standpoint, I like how this game sets up way more than I do the other game if you're playing the 2-gamer.
The quarterback pricing, we've said it all year. This is for the playoffs. This is way too cheap for Jordan Love to be $5,300. They are second in EPA per pass on the season. And we'll talk about Allen in a second when we get to that game. He's incredibly cheap for being Josh Allen, for being someone that could break the slate on his own. So I agree. I think my take in this game is that I'm going to play it as if it goes over. I understand the wind gusts and everything else. I don't know that right now, but I'm going to build as if that's going to happen and have at least 3 Packers in my lineup and probably 2 Bears.
Yeah, and for context on those Love stacks, the most expensive pass catcher here is Christian Watson, who's been awesome. He's only $4,900.
That's
right. So
that's ridiculous.
It's super easy to stack him. I want to give a little love to Jaden Reed, who I really, really like this week. He is 4K on the slate, which is nice. But also Kyler Gordon's been battling an injury and out of the slot. This is a really nice matchup for Jaden Reed. So you need the right thing to happen for Reed where, we know he's not going to get a ton of volume, but he might get, a design touch or 2 and maybe hits a big play. But I like for tournaments, I like him as leverage off Watson, but I think both are really good plays. Yeah,
on the year, Chicago is allowing the most fantasy points above expectation to opposing slot wide receivers.
There you go.
Plus 5.8. So yeah, he's not going to get clicked a ton, When you look at just the other options, and like it'd be different if we didn't have anybody else in the 4K range. We're like Watson, Dobbs, Reed, Burden, they're all right there. Coker, cheap dudes.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So I think I'm going to be overweight Josh Jacobs on the Saturday slate. Or let me put it this way. Josh Jacobs is the best value on the Saturday slate. I think I'm going to be overweight Jordan Love and his pass catchers. I do like your call about the Bears running game and Kyle Monangai kind of being a sneaky play. Any other thoughts on this game?
I don't think so.
I think I'm just going to take the pack or an over.
Yeah, that's super interesting. They've played twice now, right? And they've split the series. Each team has won once. But the Bears needed an onside kick and Jordan Love getting knocked out of the game to win in overtime.
And the Bears are like, we could do it again.
Man, I could see it going either way. I lean Packers, but I wouldn't be surprised either way.
These are two fan bases that I want to be nice to.
I know, I'm terrified.
These guys are mean. Any other last thoughts about the Saturday slate? Any other dart throws or leverage points you want to bring up?
I mentioned Jaden Reed over Watson as a price leverage. I mentioned Higbee as leverage off of Colby Parkinson. I also think if you just wanted like an easy way to get leverage on your lineup and you don't have to get super weird elsewhere, if you just aren't playing Puka, which I'm not saying is an amazing idea, but from a game theory standpoint, if you're just not playing Puka, we've seen this on other slates, like shorter slates with Jahmyr Gibbs with the Lions. Like everybody is like, I'm playing Gibbs and then I'm just going to figure it out elsewhere. He gets like 80% rostered.
Right.
It's like if he just fails, you can just do whatever you want with the rest of your lineup. I think the same thing is true to some degree in this game with Colson Loveland, who obviously I love, I adore, I think he's awesome, but I think he could push 65 to 70%, kind of like Puka. So I think trying to be mindful of how often you're playing Puka with Loveland and Josh Jacobs, like that trio, is going to be something I'll be cognizant of. Not that I won't have any of it, but just that is what the field is going to do. So if you think about leverage from a player pairing standpoint, trying to avoid those three in most of your lineups, I think is interesting.
Yeah. If you just want to set a rule, I'm only going to do 2 of 3. If you're doing like a 150, if you're doing a 20 mat, like it's hard. It kind of depends on which contest you're playing, where it's like, yeah, those dudes are going to be the best plays. And maybe it is. You're playing Loveland, playing Jacobs, you're playing Puka because they're going to project the best on a 2-game slate. And then you are, instead of playing T-Mac, you're playing Coker. And instead of playing Christian Watson, you end up at Reed. Like even that in itself would be good. So just be mindful of those types of things. All right, we're going to move on to the Sunday games. And the Bills-Jaguars is so intriguing on so many different levels. The Bills are 1.5-point road favorites in Jacksonville. The over-under's at 51.5. Josh Allen is 7K. And I went back to last year because I said, hey, what was Josh Allen last year? What were we paying for Josh Allen in the playoffs? He was 8,200 in the wild card round. So he's basically averaging the same fantasy points per dropback, and we still have the same exact issues, which is who do I stack him with? What do I do? But Josh Allen is too cheap. That's my main point I want to bring up. 7K Josh Allen on Sunday, way too cheap for a player that can go for 30 plus easily. But the guy on the other side, Trevor Lawrence at 6,100, is on a heater. He's going to project really well if you're using like points per dollar stuff. He's running at a ton, 9 rushing touchdowns on the season. That's like Josh Allen stuff. So this game, out of all the games this weekend, has the highest total. It makes sense. I have it as a 4 out of 5 in my GPS scale in our pace of play article. I mean, it just looks really, really good. The Jaguars, they play up tempo. They're 4th in offensive plays per game. But the Bills are kind of the exact opposite, right? They're slow. They're dead last in seconds per play. This is kind of a push-pull where I'm trying to figure out the game flow of how this works. And if Buffalo takes control and they want to run the ball, do you get some volume on the Jaguars side? So how do you kind of see this from a top level, and then we'll go through the matchups?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like it's strength on both sides. Like the Bills' rushing attack is one of the best in the league. The Jaguars' rush defense is one of the best in the league. The Bills' run defense is one of the worst in the league. The Jaguars' rush offense is one of the worst in the league. They're 31st in rush success rate since week 10 are the Jaguars. And that's why we've seen them shift to Trevor Lawrence and had him carry the team, and he's played so well. On the other side, the Bills want you to run the ball. They try to limit big plays. They put the cover 2 shell on and kind of let you just matriculate down the field and not hit those big plays. But we've seen Parker Washington with huge plays, and Jacoby Myers has been good, and Brenton Strange down the seam, and all these, and ETN out of the backfield as a pass catcher. So it's so interesting to me because it's good on good and bad on both sides of the ball. And I'm having a really tough time figuring out how that affects the game. I hope that Trevor Lawrence continues to do what Trevor Lawrence has done. And I think Liam Cohen will likely keep the ball in his hands. And maybe they don't run the ball a ton with Travis Etienne because they have been so bad at it, but they still kind of use the screen game or quick hitters and stuff like that as like an extension of the run game and keep Trevor Lawrence's ceiling high here. So I do like Trevor a ton. The Bills are 25th against quarterback scramble, so I think you could see Trevor use his legs a lot here, and I think Liam Cohen will scout that and understand that. So I like Trevor. I will say on the Bills side with Josh Allen, we talked about this in past seasons. Like playoff Allen is different. He will run. He has to run, and he has to win this game for this team. Period. There's no other option. And when you think about like pass catchers and stuff, like Josh Palmer's even hurt, right? So like Gabe Davis, are you going to is Keon Coleman going to be active here? Probably not. Like there literally might be a scenario where, of course, Khalil Shakir will do his thing, but like Brandon Cooks might run the most routes on this team. They have to win this game with Josh Allen's legs. So if you just blindly say like, I'm removing all metrics, all this sort of stuff, Allen can break the slate and go crazy if things break right for him. And I think the Jaguars will do a pretty good job limiting James Cook. So I do like Josh Allen a lot here. And truthfully, I think you can just run him naked if you wanted to. I know Dalton Kincaid is interesting, but I just think he has to win this game with his legs. Is pretty much their only option.
Josh Allen, historically, if you throw man coverage at him, he's just going to beat you every single time. You have somebody spy on him, it doesn't really matter. He can beat them one-on-one. The Jaguars' defense has been one of the biggest changes in all of the NFL from last year to this year. Last year, they were up there with the Lions as the most man-heavy coverage units in the NFL, and they were really, really bad. This year, they've stopped the run. So they've been incredible. They've allowed the fewest rushing yards per game to running backs, and they play a ton of zone. It's like 82% over the last 6 weeks. It does shift a little bit of the Josh Allen we've seen in the past and what's been really good for him, because we have to own up to the fact this Jaguars unit is really good. They're top 10 in EPA per rush and pass. They're one of the few teams in the playoffs that can say that. I don't love the pass catchers here. Instead, I think the way that I'm playing this is I do think it's a good spot for Trevor Lawrence once again in a double side. Like my early lean is that I would take the Jaguars to win this game. I know because the narrative that I have at play in my heart, I'm sure you do too, is, but it's Josh Allen. He's going to be Josh Allen. You just mentioned it. Other than the revenge that Gabe Davis has in his heart, you can't.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, I thought a lot about it.
Oh, man, he is livid going into this game.
Playoff Gabe Davis with the revenge in his heart. I don't have a ton of confidence in any of these guys. I don't have a ton of confidence in Khalil Shakir. The one guy I do like is Dalton Kincaid, because Jacksonville has given up the second most targets to tight ends, and he leads the entire NFL tight ends in targets per out run and yards per out run against zone coverage. Against zone coverage this year, Betz, 3.91 yards per out run.
It's very good.
Is he healthy?
Very good. That I'm not sure. But, I mean, he'll play in this game. Like there's no way he can't get out there and play.
So
they
cheap.
have to.
So cheap.
They have to have him out there. Speaking of the health in the Bills, they've got actually some huge issues overall. Like we know on the defensive line, they've got injuries. Terrell Bernard is not practicing again on Thursday. He's one of their better linebackers. Maxwell Hairston, their first-round pick, is not going to play in this game, cornerback. The Jaguars are the healthier team, no question. So I would not be surprised if the Jags win this game, especially at home as an underdog, based off the spread. I mean, it's basically a pick 'em, but based off the spread, slight dog, I would not be shocked at all. It feels weird to say because when you think about it in August, you're like, oh, Josh Allen versus Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. Like, clearly the Bills are going to win the game. I think the line is telling you something here. So I think the Jags win this game. That could look stupid in hindsight because it's Josh Allen, but the Bills have pretty serious injury issues on the other side.
Yeah, I think with Trevor Lawrence, they've been letting him throw a lot more. They're number one in pass rate over expectation for the last 6 weeks. You're basically saying a Lawrence double stack with, you're going to see a lot of Parker Washington at 5K. I still think Jacoby Myers is a great play here. But I also think you can stack him up with Travis Etienne if you want. We know the Bills are a run funnel defense, and it's been that way for years. It's almost like they've seeded that point years ago that Sean McDermott said, like, this is what my defense do. So I'm interested in double stacking Trevor Lawrence. And then the question on the other side is, if you are stacking up Trevor Lawrence, is it just James Cook or Dalton Kincaid?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Is James Cook a slate breaker?
Man, no running back against this defense has gone for more than 75 yards, and it was Jonathan Taylor on 20 carries. So, I mean, James Cook, we know the run game that the Bills have is just so dynamic. It's so good. It's the identity of the team. He could still go like 70 total yards, but like fall in the end zone twice or something like that, and on a small slate could be necessary. I lean coming in underweight James Cook and being terrified the entire time. I will say, you could see more receiving work for James Cook here, which we've been kind of begging for all year because he's so good as a pass catcher. Ty Johnson went DNP to start the week with an ankle injury, I believe. So if he is not out there, James Cook could have some more work in the pass game.
You're telling me I can't take a Ty Johnson over on his receiving line?
We almost did. And then we recognized, we're like, oh, he's hurt. Maybe we shouldn't. But it's been hitting basically every week.
All right. Any other takes on this game? I think Shakir's fine. He's fine for this slate. He's kind of fine every single time. And yet I've had the same issue for basically, 3-4 years? You don't get the ceiling games you want. And everyone clicks him because they assume he's the number one wide receiver. So it's not like you're getting a roster percentage discount.
Right.
So I will take the Jags.
Me too.
Gosh,
that feels wrong.
It feels very, very wrong. That just to say, man, I have a ton of confidence in Trevor Lawrence.
Hey, I don't have a ton of confidence.
Who am I?
If I had to pick a side, that is the side I would pick.
Kyle from, 6 months ago would be really, really like, God, what a talking head. Just a guy on a podcast just spouting stuff.
You've always been a Trevor guy. You love him.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, it's time to talk about those Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. They are 5.5-point home favorites. I don't know if you just saw the line move, Betz.
Did it really?
It really did.
Moving the lines.
Their implied totals now at 25. The 49ers are at 19.5. So things are moving in the direction of the Philly faithful. And I told Betz this earlier. I said, how do they lose this game?
Don't you dare. Don't you dare, Kyle.
I wasn't trying to mess with you, but I really was looking at this game from a couple different perspectives. Like, man, this sets up, I think, pretty well for the Eagles.
It does. And on like last year's team, I think would wipe the floor with the Niners
this game is played on paper.
Because their rushing attack last year was so dominant. This 49ers run defense is so bad. Based off their defensive injuries, they've had so many. They're literally signing guys off of other teams' practice squads this week to play in the game because they're losing so many linebackers. However, Kevin Patullo, the last time he played a team without linebackers, remember the Bears had all three starters out? Did they get stuffed to Dallas Goedert over the middle of the field? Did they hit crossers? No, why would you? So the way that they lose this game is they let the Niners stick around late in the fourth quarter, and it's a one-score game, and Purdy magic happens, which I think is honestly a pretty realistic outcome that could happen. On paper, Philly should run away with it because their defense is so good. The 49ers have so many injuries, and Pearsall, I think, being limited or out, we're still waiting on that, is huge for the way the offense operates down the field. And Trent Williams, the on-off splits are insane. Since 2020, without Trent Williams, the 49ers are 4-13. With him on the field, 61-32. So if Trent Williams can't go, it's a huge, huge issue for the offense on the road in Philly. And I also think about like systemically where this team was at a week ago. Kyle Shanahan, mentioned like they played that game for the 1 seed all out. And he thought that if they could get that game, you don't travel at all the rest of the season. Every home game in the playoffs, all those things is so important. There's like an emotional, come down from that where they lost. They put up 3 points on offense. They kind of just couldn't do anything. Now you travel across the country as the most injured team in the entire playoff field. On paper, Philly should roll. But I do not think this offense is good enough to blow anybody out. So I think they let him stick around here in this one.
I don't really know. Like the weirdest part about the Eagles, I don't know what their offense is or what version I'm going to see.
Neither do they.
For the first 11 weeks, it was kind of business as usual. Like, they're going to run the ball. They're 26 in pass rate over expectation. And then over the last 2 months, it's kind of been like, okay, we're 7th. We have some really crazy spike weeks where they only throw the ball. I just don't understand what they're going for sometimes. So this game, like, it scored a little lower when you look at the tempo and the way that the Eagles want to play, the fact that they are home favorites. And I think that Philly's pass defense is in a spot where they've only allowed 18 points per game at home. So you're looking at that implied total of the 49ers kind of creep towards that mark. It's at 19.5 right now. I also think the biggest point is that San Francisco is the worst defense remaining in the playoffs. Maybe it's Carolina. You could argue that. But I think San Francisco is just so injured that there's just nothing left.
It's honestly incredible that they're even here. Like, it's
that they had a shot at the 1 seed.
Exactly. It's a testament to Kyle Shanahan and the entire team. Robert Saleh has done an amazing job with given the injuries they've had. But at some point, it feels like the luck kind of runs out for these teams that are just so injured. I mean, it's not rocket science. Like, every year, the teams that win the Super Bowl are the healthiest teams, and the 49ers are anything but that. So could they pull off this upset because they have great playmakers? I think it's possible. The numbers and the data would say it's pretty unlikely. So my lean is to come in underweight 49ers here, which is a terrifying fade because everybody's going to play McCaffrey and Kittle, especially on FanDuel. I'm not sure if you saw his price there.
Yep.
He's basically the same price, 6,300. So he is going to project as the best play. But Philly has allowed the fewest yards per target in the league to tight ends. So I think there's more systemic failure risk on the Niners than the market suggests. So for me, I'm going to be pretty underweight and hope for the best.
So on the Eagles side, I think Saquon is a good tag at 7K on DK. It's just not hard to get there. Like, it'd be different when I'm looking across the slate and say, okay, there's running backs that can compete with him. James Cook, we talked about that. CMC from just a volume perspective. CMC has not been efficient this year, by the way. He's been getting 25 touches, and you could just roll with that because 6 of those are receptions. But I think Saquon's a really solid play. You kind of hope that the whole we're resting up in week 18 has really benefited this whole unit and benefited the whole team. So I think Saquon's a fine play. I really like Devonta Smith. San Francisco's allowed the second most adjusted fantasy points to slot wide receivers. He's only 5,900. I do think A.J. Brown's going to get clicked more. So I kind of like those from a leverage standpoint. But I mean, you can talk me into almost any starter for the Eagles.
Yeah, I like the wide receivers too. And not that I don't like Saquon. It's just, we've seen this before in matchups where it's like, oh, this is a good Saquon spot. But the offense just can't run the ball. And they will get Lane Johnson back, which should help. But he's also not 100%, so there's a question mark there. On paper, they should be able to run it and do whatever they want. And if this was last year's version of Saquon, I'd be like, man, how do you not play 100% Saquon on the slate? But I could see a path where he's just like middling and doesn't score. And then the leverage you get with either A.J. Brown or Smitty stacked with Hurts makes a lot of sense. And I do think too, like, I know that it's not predictable. Nothing Kevin Patullo is calling this year is predictable. They don't have an identity offensively. It's very frustrating to try to predict what's going to happen. But to me, you've kept Hurts bottled up a little bit all year as a runner. Why not unleash him in the playoffs and really kind of add an element to your offense you haven't had the entire season? So I will be overweight Hurts. Maybe you get a tush-push touchdown. Maybe you get a couple passing touchdowns. The Niners actually allowed multiple passing touchdowns. I think it's 7 of the last 10 games. So I don't mind a Hurts double. I don't know that the field's going to play it that way.
What are you going to do then on the San Francisco side? Because CMC is going to get clicked a ton. He's going to show up as a really good value despite being 8,500 and 9,500 on FanDuel. It's like you can't really get away from him, but then you look at the wide receivers, and if your boy Ricky P doesn't play, like, does somebody else get boosted here? Is it Juwan Jennings? Is it a dart throw for Demarcus Robinson? Or is it just like everyone's going to funnel to Kittle?
I think everybody's going to funnel to CMC and Kittle, which I understand. On McCaffrey, I kind of view it somewhat similarly to Puka on the Saturday slate, where it's like, hey, even if he only gives you 15 points, that might be enough on a small slate. And with McCaffrey, I think this could be a little bit of a struggle without Trent Williams if he can't go to run the football, but I also could see a path to like 8 catches in this game, right? And in full PPR, that just goes such a long way. So I think McCaffrey is a good play. I will probably come in underweight on Kittle, though.
When I was looking at Kittle I usually throw out a lot of this defense is really good or bad against tight ends. I probably cited some statistics earlier, but they haven't played anybody. Like they played Kelsey and Bowers, but they haven't played anybody else in the top 7. So part of that is just matchup wise, but for his price, as the only pay up tight end, I think he's still a fine play. I'm not probably just going to meet the field with Kittle. Goddard is impossible to figure out. If you know how to figure out Dallas Goedert, tell me.
Literally couldn't tell you. You might see these weird I love that little underhand scoop play. Him on a screen. Sick play, Patullo. Sometimes he'll get one target in the game and he disappears. Honestly, who knows? You're touchdown hunting with Goddard. So he's a fine play. Stack him up with Hurts if you want. That's probably what I would do is there's going to be some Hurts teams I have that are, honestly, I'll probably have a bunch, but doubled with the wide receivers and then maybe just a one-off stack, skinny stack with Goddard, and you hope you get the 2 touchdown game.
All right, last thing I'll say here is I don't think Purdy's going to get clicked a ton despite the fact that he's been on fire for the last month. So of the quarterbacks on this slate, I think he, falls a little bit lower. But man, what a stacked Sunday slate. When you look at Allen, Lawrence, Purdy, and Hurts, and then the game we're about to talk about, May and Herbert. That's just good football right there. The last thing I also need to mention is if you want to play Saquon and the Philly defense together, I love that as a start.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
All right. The line says 5.5. So I think I'm just going to take the Niners under on their implied total.
I think under on their total makes a lot of sense, or just under in the game, I think makes sense.
All right, last game we got to talk about here. Chargers at Patriots. And I hate that someone has to lose this game.
I know.
Somebody has to lose this game. We made our office picks, which if you go to myplayoffpicks.com, did I say it correctly? Myplayoffpicks.com.
I think you did.
Okay. That is a website that Brooks, one of our producers, and Schneider, one of our dev guys, made, where you can make your bracket for the NFL. It reseeds it for you. It's really, really fun. Who did you take in this game?
I took the Patriots.
I took the Chargers.
And I don't feel good about it.
Okay. I don't feel good about it either. Now, how do you feel about this line that the Patriots are 3.5 point favorites?
I would take the Chargers at more than a field goal.
That's where I landed as well. The Chargers, you know that there's injuries in the offensive line. That's kind of been the story. It's a miracle that Justin Herbert is alive, that he made it to the playoffs. He led the league in pressure rate. He's the last quarterback to do that, to lead the league in pressure rate and make the playoffs, was Deshaun Watson 2018. It's just not normal to be able to do that. And the offense, man, the last couple of weeks, they've basically just said, let's just run the ball. Let's just make sure this dude stays alive. Let's make sure we make it to the playoffs. So it's an uninspiring version recently, despite the fact my boy Keenan Allen made his millions of dollars in week 18. The Patriots this year, they've been on a roll. We've liked that. We've liked the story with Drake May. We love the fact that we have MVP tickets, all those things. Those are wonderful. I worry about this game from a pace perspective, being all that I want it to be. The total's at 46.5. And you look at the offenses, you say, I could see the firepower, but you could also see a scenario where this game hits the under because of how good the Chargers defense has been. It's top 7 in EPA per rush and pass attempts. So there's some good stuff here that can keep the Chargers in the matchup. So where do you want to start?
I think I agree with you on that. And just it feels like firepower. It's you could see Drake May with deep completions and Travion can break off a long run. And we know what Justin Herbert can do. And that all sounds great. And I hope it goes that way for DFS and fantasy football. But I feel like it's an under game, right? West Coast team traveling all the way across the country. It seems like it'll be, I think both defenses can kind of show up here because of the way it sets up. Jesse Minter's unit has been awesome at limiting big plays. Drake May is one of, if not the best deep ball quarterbacks in the league this year. So it sort of is like a push-pull. We talked about that with the Bills and Jaguars. It's kind of good on good here. The problem is, on the other side, you want to take advantage of a Patriots run defense that's been so horrific. Only the Niners are worse since week 10. Yet because of their injuries to the offensive line, and Amari Hampton, this is a new ankle injury, by the way. It's his right ankle. He rolled it a couple weeks ago, not his left ankle fracture from previously. How healthy is he? Can they load him up as a bell cow here? I'm not sure. So that's why I really don't know how this game's going to go. I will say because of those factors, I think you could see Justin Herbert really spike here as a runner. The Patriots have been pretty good at limiting QBs in general when you look at all in totality, but they played Josh Allen twice. He put up big lines. They played a couple other mobile quarterbacks that had success here. So I think Justin Herbert as a runner is interesting here. So I don't mind him in this game, but I will say I really do think this is probably an underspot.
Don't tell me I had to have a good time on a Sunday night. Justin Herbert as a runner.
The late night hammer, Justin Herbert.
But I love Drake May.
I know, and he can run at the goal line too.
So we can't play them both together.
That's why you play multiple lineups.
Yeah. This is why you set the optimizer to say, I will play these two quarterbacks. If you want to play May, Diggs is the one in this matchup. You're going to see a ton of zone, and May has basically been the best in the league against zone. 75% of his passes completed, 9.2 yards per pass attempt, but Diggs is leading the way. I still think Kayshon Boutte is a really good single stacking partner with Drake May. I wonder if this game is going to go under roster. Like some of these wide receivers, that's the hardest part of figuring this out is is it McConkey? Is it Quentin Johnson? Is it Keenan Allen? Is it Gadsden? And then you can do the same thing on the Patriots side. Other than Diggs, you're kind of just trying to figure out what it's like. So this game, I like it more from a see how your lineups shake out. If you're in like a 3 max or a single entry, this is a great one to look at later and say, who are my options in the flex? Who are my options at my wide receiver 2 or 3 spot that I can kind of switch out? Because you could convince me of almost any Chargers wide receiver.
The one that I have the least interest in, and this probably will come back and look silly in hindsight.
Don't say it.
Is Quentin Johnston. When you think about the ability of Christian Gonzalez on the other side and kind of who he'd most likely focus on, not the cornerback wide receiver matchups are super sticky, but I think he'd be the guy. I have a lot of interest in Ladd here. It's kind of been a while since we've seen a big Ladd game, but we saw it last year in the playoffs, even against a tough Houston team. He popped up for a big game. He had a nice game. It's a different team or whatever, but leading up to the playoffs last year against a terrible Patriots team, he popped up for a huge game. So I don't know if that matters, if it's sticky, but just to point it out, I kind of like Ladd here, and I feel like he's going to get overlooked on this slate just because everything from a median projection standpoint says targets will be spread out here. But on a 1-game slate or a single 3-game slate, whatever it is, if things kind of condense and you hit that right tail outcome, to me, Ladd has the highest ceiling of this trio. And I don't know if I can get there on Keenan, and Gadsden's kind of really has not had a great role at all recently. So I think I'm going to be overweight the field on Ladd.
I will never forget that Ladd McConkey game last year against New England. Week 17, it was on Saturday.
Yep, I remember it well.
8 for 94 and 2, okay? I had him in a couple of best ball lineups, so that was great. I was sweating out so I had a great start to the weekend, and I had him on my team in the finals, and you're starting out with a monster score. I lost my matchup, didn't win the championship. But man, that Saturday, I was putting together furniture from IKEA.
Who could forget?
Dude,
what was it? What was it, a table or what?
No memory of it, what it was. I just remember I was putting something together.
Well, and then remember the Texans game in the wild card round?
No,
he went nuts.
Oh, yes. Ladd went nuts. Yeah. Where Herbert...
Wild card Ladd, they call him.
Yeah, 4 INTs. Will Disley's fault on one of those. And then Ladd went crazy. I'm looking at the Patriots running game, and I think Ramondre's too involved for me to say I have a firm stance on Travion. I'm still going to play some Travion, but I wish Ramondre wasn't around.
And this is one where I don't think projections are good. I feel like it's probably going to be somewhat game flow dependent, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Ramondre outtouched Travion here. It's the rookie's first playoff game. Vrabel's kind of a no-nonsense guy. If Travion's not running well, he's not guaranteed to run away with it. At the same time, he can hit a couple big plays, and I think he could get hot, and they can go to him more. So I really don't know how this shakes out. And I think anytime there are those situations where you understand there's a left tail outcome that could happen or a right tail one, when roster percentage is low, I will lean into the upside cases of these guys. So I'll have exposure to both, but probably not in the same lineup like I would, on the 2-game slate for some of those teams.
All right, I'm going to take Chargers plus 3.5.
I am as well.
All right, so for the Sunday slate, before we get into our slate breakers and prop it like it's hot, any roster construction things you want to bring up? I mentioned this game as kind of one that just think about from a late swap perspective. I think my early stance is I might be a little underweight Josh Allen. I probably would be overweight some Eagles. I think Saquon's a great play. I think Hurts double stacks are a great play. And then I do like trying to figure out the Chargers wide receivers. I think they can have some success. And if you don't like it to be Quentin Johnston, Ladd or Keenan are interesting.
For sure, yeah. A lot of optimizers are going to give you one of Josh Allen or Trevor Lawrence. Not that that's a bad thing, but just understand like that's how the field's going to start the vast majority of their lineup. So if you're fading those two quarterbacks and you understand like they failed in the first game, you could probably just swap your lineup into the chalkiest plays in the second and third game. So that's one thing to consider. I will say the other thing to consider that I'm looking at is these uncertain situations like I talked about. The Patriots running backs could kind of see it go either way. The wide receivers on the Chargers could see that go a number of different ways. The Eagles, we talked about, is it Smitty or is it A.J. Brown? What about Goddard? I could see that going a number of different ways. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here for uncertain situations, for tournament winning outcomes to happen. Cowardly take, I don't know what it's going to be, but I think if you're playing a lot of lineups, you want to mix and match to those player groups and just kind of embrace that there is going to be some variance on this slate.
Yeah, the difference between the two slates is the Saturday slate has Puka on it. That in itself is a giant, thing you have to sort through. And the running backs are Josh Jacobs and cheaper guys. The Sunday slate has the heavy hitters. CMC, James Cook, Saquon Barkley, even ETN is a really, really good play. So I think one way that I would want to get different, because you're going to see lineups where people fit in 3 stud running backs. I'm probably going to limit it to 2 just because you're going to catch a lot of roster percentage. Like you're going to see a ton of roster percentage around CMC, Saquon, James Cook. So not playing all those three together just in itself is a big point. There's not a lot of great wide receiver projections on the Sunday slate. It's like A.J. Brown. I like Devonta Smith. Jacoby Myers is going to project well. And then I don't know, man.
Yeah, the strength of the Sunday slate is not the wide receivers.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Moving on.
Slate Breaker of the Week.
I'm going to make this pretty simple. I'm going to give you a Saturday guy that I kind of like and a Sunday guy. My Saturday guy is Jordan Love.
I like that.
Okay.
I'm going to go. I'll pair. I'll also do Saturday. I really like that game. And I'm going to go with Jaden Reed. And we're going to do a stack here.
I like that.
Jaden Reed and Jordan Love.
I thought you were just going to say, here's my slate breaker, the Packers-Bears game. I really like that game. On Sunday, I think Dalton Kincaid is too cheap for his role if he's alive and stays on the field at 3,800. I mentioned his splits against zone, and that's what the Jaguars do. So I kind of like Dalton Kincaid more than the field.
Okay, I like that. I'm trying to see what angles I like because it's kind of tricky. I like Devonta Smith. I think that's a really good call. But I mentioned Ladd. I'm going to go Ladd. I think he gets way overlooked on the slate, and you just hope it's a Ladd week because it could be a Keenan week, it could be a Gadsden week. I'm going to go Ladd.
Dude, if it's a Ladd or a Keenan week, I'm very, very happy if they win. I will mention, I didn't mention the stat earlier, the Patriots have used a ton of single high safety looks recently, and Keenan is by far the first read, like leads the whole team in first read targets per outrun, all that stuff against single high safety looks. We'll see. He's still alive. He's not dead yet, especially on third down.
Prop it like it's hot.
All right. If you want all of our props, you can get them in the DFS Pass, which is free. So you can go on the website, fantasyfootballers.com. Betz posts the article, gives our rationale. We also get to notify everybody in the Discord when we take these. And I'll let you go first.
All right. I'm going to go to the Monday game. I want to know what you think is better here, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
The Muth, I do not think, is getting Luth in this game.
He hasn't been very Luth in a while.
His prop is 3.5 catches. I like the under. Or alternatively, under 35.5 receiving yards. Now, to his credit, had a nice game last week, 51 yards, still only 3 catches. He's only had 4+ catches twice on the entire season. So that's my lean. But at the same time, I think yardage is in play because the Texans are top 5 in fewest yards per target allowed to the position. So I think the matchup is there. The other thing is We actually had an under on Rodgers passing last week, which in hindsight looked egregious, but he dropped back 52 times. That is not the Steelers' plan. They also ran well over 70 plays, so I think you could see regression on the Pittsburgh offense from just plays run standpoint, and then therefore Rodgers dropbacks. So, and DK Metcalf is back this week too. So I like under on Muth. I don't know what the best look is here, but under 3.5 or under 35.5 receiving yards.
I like both of those. It's hard to figure out which one I like more. I think the receptions feels easier for me to conceptualize.
All right. That'll be the play.
All right. So I've got Pop Douglas. His projection right now is at 18.5 receiving yards. He's been under 3 of his last 4. One of those, week 18, I throw out a lot of the usage because he was out there a lot more. His route rate the previous 3 weeks, 20%. Chargers have been 6th best against slot wide receivers. He's behind Kyle Williams, put it that way, in terms of route percentage. It's been about 22, 23%. His receiving prop, the juice for the under 1.5 receptions is pretty heavy too. So I think he's one of those players that I will bet against him having a big game. So under 18.5 receiving yards, Pop Douglas.
I like it.
All right. Make sure you check out all the best plays. I know that this is a jam-packed Saturday and Sunday slate, so check those out in the DFS Pass bets. Tell everyone goodbye.
Yes, we will also have DraftKings specific picks up on the site and then FanDuel as well. And then the best plays article with Chris Cash and myself will have best plays for Saturday, best plays for Sunday. And of course, if you're playing the whole thing, mix and match there. And then Chris Cash will have his Monday night articles up as well. Good luck this weekend. Enjoy the football. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.